I've been out here 8 years, and in that 8 years I've seen unbelievable changes. I mean, Burundi is a hell of a mess, and I don't use those words lightly. It's been a hellhole war zone in which hundreds of thousands of people literally have been killed. Everyone's heard about Rwanda because of 1994 and the genocide. Well, Burundi started before that, and it's still going on to this day, although as of about 6 months ago, maybe we'd say the war is over. So it's a very exciting place to be. It's a time of reconstruction, it's a time of new hope, and the Lord's doing incredible stuff. We've got a Christian president who even led a Christian outreach festival at the turn of the year. Many people are coming to know him, many people in government being transformed, in the military, all sorts of stuff. And so God really is doing something extraordinary in this land. And it's very exciting to be a small part of that. There are hundreds of thousands of people who now do not have parents. The AIDS pandemic is ravaging the place, so an orphanage is desperately needed, but not just some random orphanage. An orphanage whose whole sort of essence and what it's about is to bring up a new generation of leadership to be agents of transformation in this country. We're in the heart of the country, and we'll be sending out people, and people will be coming from around the country for leadership training, and these kids hopefully will grow up with an ethic to make a difference in their own country. Moving incidents in my life was when my pastor's 18-year-old brother died in his arms because he didn't have $5 for the medicine. So you can go to the chemist and you can see the medicine, and I've had that disease umpteen times, immediate dysentery, but if you haven't got the money for it, then sorry, go home and die. So his 18-year-old brother died in his arms for the lack of $5. That's $5 for a life. Now, that fries my brain. It's a sick, sick world. And I went to England's most expensive school. I come from a rich family, and I've given up my whole life to come and do this sort of thing. The gospel has got to cost on some level. I don't want people necessarily to come out, but to realise we can make a difference. Burundi is just an amazing place. People have tried to kill me. I've had intense experiences, but that's, in a sense, nothing compared to what these guys have been through. I mean, everyone's lost someone hacked to death. A friend of mine said this is where 49 members of my family were hacked to death and buried in a mass pit. Think of a kid down the road from me, little Johnny, and he's found on a rubbish dump. He'd been eating mud for a year. They had to cut the stones out of his gums. He was forced to eat mutilated parts of his dad's body. He'd stopped growing from the trauma of seeing his mum and dad hacked to death. And yet when he came to know Jesus, I met him. He was the size of a 3-year-old, although he was 8 years old. He hadn't grown for 5 years. There's something physiologically had happened in his body. And when he came to know Jesus, when he understood Jesus saying, love your enemy, bless those who persecute you, he just started growing, literally, physically, as well as spiritually, metaphorically. And to me, that's the hope for this nation, is that people who come to know Christ and understand the dynamic of forgiveness and reconciliation, they forgive, and then they grow, and then they move on. That's the hope of that country. This is Leslie, and Leslie's the only one of the kids here who's HIV positive. She doesn't actually know it herself, and her sister is this one here, Kelsey. And so their mother died of AIDS, and praise God, this one is okay. But at least Leslie's being brought up in a loving family, and family set up with this one taking care of her. Felicity's like the house mum, if you like, and she was raped when she was 17, giving birth to Blair's down here. And obviously the father's not around, and she wasn't saved. She's come to know the Lord now, and she's the wonderful house mum sharing the love of Christ with these kids. Down there you've got Ornella, and she was the daughter of a prostitute. The mum's died of AIDS, but praise God again that Ornella's cleared the virus. This little boy Theo is an absolute miracle that he's still alive, because he was absolute rag and bones when he was found abandoned, and apparently he's literally got a new layer of skin, because when they fared with Felicity with him in hospital for 2 whole months, he managed to get special food from Belgium with good vitamins in it, and he's now fine, but he's traumatized. You see, he's eating now. If he sees food and he doesn't have it, he just cries the whole time. He's actually quite a fat jabber, because he just stuffs his face the whole time. When he hasn't got food, he's got 2 fingers in his mouth the whole time. So it's a miracle that he's alive. All these kids, hopefully he's not brain damaged, because malnutrition often leads to brain damage. hopefully, all these kids are going to grow up in a loving Christian environment to make a difference in their own nation. That's the aim of Youth for Christ. This one girl, she started her life thrown down a toilet, so she was an abortion, if you like, and Mum obviously couldn't handle this new arrival, and she threw away this kind of piece of flesh down a pit latrine, not like ours, sort of sanitised toilets. This is a hole in the ground. Someone must have seen this thing wriggle and the seething mass at the bottom, and she was fished out, and somehow this discarded piece of flesh was still alive, weighing 2 pounds, and she was fed through a pet tube like a little bird, and now she's growing. She's this precious little girl, and her name is Grace. Grace is just a great name, isn't it? Because that's the whole Christian message in a nutshell, that God reaches down to the pit of our lives, whether we're multi-murdering, rapist, pillaging idiots in Central Africa, or whether we're very sophisticated, self-absorbed Westerners, be it in the States or in the UK. We all need God's grace, and He reaches down, He picks us up, He cleans us off in Jesus dying on the cross, says, I love you, I made you in my image, now come on, get out there and change the world. And that's what we're doing here. I mean, I'm hanging out, I get the privilege to support and be with these guys at Youth for Christ who are doing phenomenal work, and we're bringing leaders from around the country to give them further training, and this orphanage is part of that, developing